has questions. So before other people speak, I'm going to go last. I just wanted to do a couple of thank yous. So I'm Robin Greenwald. I run the environmental unit at Weitz and Luxenberg. But I wanted to thank the church, first and foremost, Pastor Tim Winters. And Whitney Watkins. Honestly, I cannot begin to tell you how inviting and welcoming they've been and allowing this facility, because honestly, but for this facility, you all couldn't be here. We really couldn't find any place this large. There's an overflow room, so those of you in the overflow room, hello, I'm sorry, there isn't enough room in here. There are a ton of people here. So thank you, Pastor and Whitney, and I also want to call out to David Balin, who literally worked with us for the past 5 days from, like, I don't know, maybe I called him once at 4:30 in the morning because I was on the East Coast, so sorry, David. And we talked late at night to try to help make this happen. So he has been our liaison with the church and the community, and he's been extraordinarily helpful. And thank you so much. And many other members of the community. I don't want to spend too much time because I'll be up here for too long. So to my right is Erin Brockovich. I'm sure you all recognize her. I have the pleasure of working with Erin all the time, and I say pleasure, but sadly we always work on things like this, which really aren't a pleasure. But since you're dealing with this situation, it becomes a pleasure to try to help you through this situation. So I guess I use the word pleasure in a confusing way. But Erin, as you all know, is the ultimate champion of justice and of environmental safety, and I think that you will really appreciate what she has to say tonight. So to the right of Erin is Camille Sears. Camille is an air modeler, so she will be instrumental in helping us with your case and helping understand exactly what you're breathing, when you're breathing it, how you're breathing it, and what's happened before, what's happening today, and what's going to happen in the future. So, and to my left is Bob Bocock, who runs Integrated Resource Management in Southern California. It is an environmental science company, and he works with Erin and myself on a ton of different cases, and he refers to himself as the quarterback. I'm not a big football fan, but we'll call him a quarterback for tonight, and he's going to talk to you as well. So I also want to thank the people who you saw when you came in today. These are all of my colleagues. Chris Dalby is one of the attorneys in my office, and then there's a number of other people here who were helping to put this together. The one thing I want to mention to you is we have a sign-in sheet. I don't know if everyone signed in, but if you want to get emails from us and updates of what we're doing, make sure that you give someone your name and email address, because that's the only way we can communicate with you. And if you don't have an email, give your street address, that's fine. We can do snail mail. But if you want to keep up with what we're doing, we would need some way to contact you. So just make sure that you give your address and email and name to people who are here. So before Erin speaks, Councilmember Englander would like to present and talk to you guys for a minute. So Councilmember.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you. I'm Councilmember Mitchell Englander. I think I know most of you. I want to thank you for coming out here tonight, not just for coming out here tonight, but for your patient frustration. I've talked to many of you over the last 6 weeks, and as you well know, I've been working in my office, been working around the clock on this issue, and it is beyond frustrating. Before I make some deeper remarks, and I'll keep it brief as well because I know you have a lot to go over, I want to thank Shepherd of the Hills for the church really for opening their sanctuary to us. Paula, thank you so much. Our pastor, Doug Rutherford, I don't believe he's here tonight, but I want to thank him and Tim and everybody else. This is a sanctuary. And for many of you, you've been here in really tough times. You've been here in prayer, but you've also been here, and I've seen many of you here when we had the Cessna fires and we were doing evacuations then. And this was our sanctuary that we all came to come together, to pray together, to survive together. We're doing it again tonight. And we'll continue to do that. But I want you to keep that in mind as you come up to the microphone later on to ask your questions as well. This is a group of folks that have come out to answer questions on your behalf, and I'm truly grateful. We need all the help we can get. This event tonight is not sponsored or hosted by the Neighborhood Council or the City of Los Angeles. And I don't support or endorse any particular litigation or experts coming in, but I welcome them all. We need full transparency. The gas company has not been forthright with any of us from the beginning. We have more questions now than we ever had. We know more or less than we should know. And because of that, we've done a number of initiatives that we've taken on. I've formed the Porter Ranch Community Advisory Committee, which are all the stakeholders throughout not just Porter Ranch, but all the affected communities of Granada Hills and Northridge and Chatsworth as well. They're going to be getting together on a regular basis to disseminate and collect real information and share it with all of you. So if you want to get all of that information, make sure you sign up on our website at cd12.org. I think most of you probably get my newsletter already. We want to make sure you get that information. The most important thing is this. We need to be safe. This is a phenomenal community. This is one of the best communities by far, bar none, in the city of Los Angeles to live, to work, and to raise a family. And the most important thing is your health. It's the protection of you, your families, your children, your loved ones, the elderly, everybody in this community. Health and safety is absolutely the #1 objective. For those of you who are thinking about relocating or already have, we've already added additional patrols, so your belongings are also, that is a priority, that your homes are safe even if you're not in them. I've been meeting regularly, every day in fact, with the Los Angeles Police Department, directly with our police chief, Charlie Beck, and we've added additional patrols to enhance that as well. So I want you to know, I got your back. I have a big question. I have a big question that's been looming to me from the beginning of this. And it has been answered, and nobody's able to answer it yet. We've got a lot of interest, both internally and outside, coming in to help us. We've got different regulatory agencies, in fact, almost everybody, from the EPA, the PUC, and DOGGR, and AQMD, and every acronym that you can imagine in the alphabet that has come together to look at this and are on site. Where's our governor? And I don't know why he hasn't been here on the site. He's the only one that can actually legally declare a state of emergency if that's truly needed. He can bring in the outside resources and contact the feds. And so, yeah, Jerry Brown, wherever you are, come to Porter Ranch as quickly as possible. We need your help.
So before Erin speaks, I forgot to thank the LAPD, so I wanted to thank them for coming tonight as well. My turn. Good evening, everyone. My name is Erin Brockovich, and listen, tonight is a very serious matter, but I have to share with you where I share all the time. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm Erin Brockovich, not Julia Roberts. So. That's just to start on a light note. I really appreciate the invitation to be here tonight. I've received emails from hundreds and hundreds of community members. In a way, I am your neighbor. I live on the other side of the hill in Agoura Hills, California. So I feel compelled to be here and to help my neighbor. I certainly understand your plight and that we all have so much in common. And, I am now a grandmother, and I can see more than ever the importance and the health and safety of our families and our children, and I know that is your greatest concern tonight. I'm not going to talk too long. I'll come in and out of the conversation. Most importantly, we want to hear from all of you. We want to let you know what our ideas are, what we do know, what we don't know.
And most importantly for me, I definitely want all of us to stay united. I've been doing this for 20 plus years without dating myself. And I can tell you that when we all stick together, things will go better. And I know that there's confusion and chaos, a lot of mistrust is happening. And it's important, and I share this with communities often, that you realize Superman's not coming. We're going to have to start saving ourselves. And we want to help you become proactive. We want to provide you tools so you can begin to start getting the answers. We're not always going to get the answers from EPA or state agencies or the gas company. They think that because, some people think that because they're here, they're going to be forthwith. And unfortunately, that's not the case. And everybody wants to be relocated. I just sit outside to some news outlets because Southern Cal Gas has continued to say there's no problem with what you're breathing. Well, so I have an idea. Since Southern Cal Gas and you are being relocated, maybe they'd like to swap their houses and they can come out here and live. We know there's a lot of reports of health effects from nosebleeds. I don't know if you all are open to sharing. I hope that you are. I think it's important you all know you're in the same boat. How many in this room are experiencing, or their children are experiencing nosebleeds? So, most of you. We're getting reports of skin rashes, headaches, nausea, vomiting, most of you. We're getting reports that the animals are starting to have problems. Okay, this is very important to us, and you're going to hear throughout the evening from Robin, from Camille, from Bob, and we'll jump back and forth. But we do want you to know to keep a journal. It's going to be very important. We do want you to know and understand that we understand the school situation with the children and the frustration that you're feeling. And we have heard that if the children don't come to class, they'll be failed. We've heard that if you leave the area, they might not hold your seat. Robin is going to share with you, for her legally, a position of an injunction to get the Unified School District to find a temporary place for the children to go. We also know that there are a lot of concerns about your property. Again, we're here to answer all of those questions for you tonight, legal questions. We know that there is absolute confusion in the community. We know there's many attorneys out there. I've been in that situation way too many times. We're going to share with you the difference between a class action, a direct action, what our plans are, where we think the pitfalls could be for you. And most importantly, we want to hear from you. We're here tonight to answer your concerns. I am clearly available. I have been as the community continues to come to us. I will be back out in the area tomorrow. As I said, we want you to become proactive and to provide you tools. I've learned over a course of 20 years, agencies are not very forthcoming with information. I think most of us saw last night on the news the infrared, and it shows the methane in the air. We know it's here. I want to know what's in it. I think everybody else does as well. So tomorrow, and we'll discuss tonight, I believe we have 12. We were going to look for 12 volunteers. I think with Camille's help, it will be helpful because there should probably be places necessary. But I'm going to come back out tomorrow and begin to provide SUMA canisters so we can do testing in your backyard and find out what's happening in your home and find out exactly what is in the Mayor Captains and what it is everybody's being exposed to. So that's our purpose tonight. And again, I said I'm not going to talk too long because I want to get it moving so we can hear from you. So having said that, again, thank you. Thank you to the church. Thank you to the LAPD. Most importantly, thank you to all of you for coming and reaching out. And we're going to do everything possible to keep you united, provide you all the information you need, and take care of your health and welfare, your children, and answer any questions that you have. So with that, who's next? Camille?
Hello, my name is Camille Sears. I'm a meteorologist. I live in Ojai, and I'm happy to be here tonight. I'm sorry that you're under the circumstances that you're under. I've been in a similar situation to you before, and it's not pleasant, and I give my condolences and my prayers. I want to just talk to you briefly a little bit about what we can do in terms of recreating what the exposures have been and will be from the gas leak in your community. Erin talked about things that we do know and things that we don't know. We do know certain things, and we're still trying to find out a lot of the unknowns. And the one thing that I want to talk to you about today is the role of a meteorologist in a matter like this. And what we can do is, from whenever this gas leak started to now, we can recreate what the exposures were in terms of the level of the various pollutants at any one of your houses. We can recreate that using air dispersion models. And we do that using site-specific meteorological data, topography, emissions from the leak itself, and we're still gathering a lot of information, but I want to let you know that we'll do everything we can to try and recreate the exposures for every one of your locations. And it can be done. I've done this many times before in the last 35 years, testified to them in various state and federal courts, and so it's a well-established procedure. And so that's what we intend to do here for your location. We have a few maps here. The first one is just, I won't do this for very long, I don't want to put you to sleep, but the first one is basically the location of where we believe that the gas leak is. It's fairly close to this. This is actually centered on the SoCal gas compressor station. And you can see that, most of the Porter Ranch area and Granada Hills is roughly within a 2-mile radius of that site. And I want to talk to you a little bit about meteorological data, weather data. A lot of weather people forecast the future. My job here today will be to recreate the past, what has happened between October 23rd and today, and what has happened between October 23rd and when this leak is finally stopped. We can recreate that. And we were fortunate that we had meteorological data in Porter Ranch. It's the California Irrigation Management Information System. It's called CIMIS. And so we found some meteorological data right in the heart of Porter Ranch. And what we found when we looked at the data is this is what we call a wind rose. It shows the direction of the wind and the speed of the wind in 16 different compass directions. And this is for all of 2015 from January 2nd until now. And what you see is we have a lot of north winds. And I spent quite a bit of time in Porter Ranch. My daughter got her bachelor's and master's degree from CSUN, and so we came up here a lot. And she was a music student. She taught a lot of students up here, and so we spent a lot of time up in Porter Ranch. And every time I came here, the wind was blowing from the north, which is basically blowing the releases from the gas leak over the community. I don't have to tell you this. You don't need to be a weatherman to know which way the wind blows, but So anyway, but this confirms what we thought, that there's a lot of north winds. And if you break it down, this is in the morning, basically from October 23rd through today, or yesterday, through December 7th, so 2 days ago. And you can see that almost all the winds between midnight and 7 in the morning are from the north. So basically, almost 100% of the time, the wind is blowing from the gas lick over the community. And if you look at like different times of the day, like from like 6 in the morning to 7 in the evening, it's the same pattern. And if you look at other times of the day, like I'm a little nearsighted, you know, you see the same thing. Basically, no matter what time of day it is, you get these incredible high frequency of north winds. And the other thing we're going to be doing is looking at other meteorological stations. We've got other data from Chatsworth, from Oak Mountain, other meteorological data sites in Porter Ranch and Granada Hills. I've got all the meteorological data from Cal State Northridge and from the South Coast AQMD. And we'll put this all together and then recreate, you know, what your exposures are and have been, and hopefully, you know, we can resolve this issue and get this taken care of as soon as possible. Thank you. I'll be here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin introduced me earlier tonight as sort of Erin's quarterback. The two of us have been working together for going on about 20 years now. I am a lifelong Los Angeles County resident, and I started my career at the Jensen filtration plant right next door here in Granada Hills back in 1982. I'm a water guy. That's the area of science I've spent my career in. And in doing so, have worked with the EPA on the Baldwin Park Operable Unit Superfund site in San Gabriel Valley, which is the largest groundwater drinking fund site in the United States and in the EPA system. And I began investigating that about the time that I started working with Erin. Erin and I have worked together on cases across the country. They're air related, they're soil contamination related, and they're groundwater related. And the role of the quarterback in the investigation, you're going to have at least a dozen or 2 dozen experts. And they all have to be coordinated in various areas of science. You heard from Dr. Sears about the meteorological aspects of it. There's going to be toxicologists and air experts and soil vapor transport experts, and those all have to be coordinated. And that's the role that I play. I also do the document investigation. There's a lot of documents in this case, and there's a lot of evidence of things that have gone wrong and a lot of legal violations. We all know that. You've heard about all of that. What I hope to do is to put that into a system of information that is transparent, that you can all understand. That's very important. It's also important for you to understand that through the work with Erin, 90% of the community work that we do is not about litigation. It's not about cases. Erin and I were working with the city of Tyler, Texas yesterday. It's about a groundwater contamination case in that community that has absolutely nothing to do with litigation, but Erin and I will work towards resolution. It's about getting to the truth, and I think that's the most important thing that got you guys here tonight. Regardless of what you do, you're looking for answers. You're looking for the truth. And that's all this is about for us as well. It's about us getting to the bottom line of what's happened. As far as, you know, your concerns about property values and your concerns about health effects and your concerns about your children, that bell's been rung. Okay? A lot of that damage has already been done. And it's about getting the situation remedied now. You don't want to hear 4 months from now. You want to hear about how we can get it done. And I appreciate the councilman's comment about getting the governor down here. I will tell you that the oil and gas industry, for some unknown reason, has got him by. You know, when you start talking about fracking on earthquake faults in downtown Los Angeles, something is wrong. The agency in charge of this, Dogger, they're a dogger, all right, because I'll tell you, they have screwed up the groundwater in the Central Valley. They have contaminated the air in downtown Los Angeles. Literally the 110 and the 10 freeway interchange, there are oil and gas fracking wells at those locations, and they are polluting the air downtown. So what they're doing out here, there's no easy answer, is illegal. And until somebody opens their eyes and gets down to the bottom of it, the lies are going to continue. So this meeting tonight is about you. We're going to pass it off to Robin and have her kind of bring things together as a community as far as what your legal options are. And then we're going to hear from you, and with as many people as here tonight, I think the time belongs to you. So with that, Robin.
So, hi again. One of the things I was thinking about when I was listening to everyone is so often when we go to meetings, the pollution is over, what I call legacy pollution. So people have learned that, oh boy, I've been drinking polluted water for 20 years. The flu might even be gone, people are sick. This is unusual because you have ongoing issues today and you're going to have them tomorrow. I mean, so far, what the word is, 4 months. So the law has some interesting aspects. Usually all we can do is compensate you from the past. Can't really do anything to change the past. But here, there's the past, the present, and the next 4 months and what's after that. So this case is maybe a little different than some of the cases that we frequently have. So let me go through some issues with you here. So one of the things I was thinking about, I don't know if this is a good or bad analogy for you, but I spent 5 years, I live in New York, but I work a lot in California. And I spent 5 years living in New Orleans, working on the BP oil spill. And when I first heard about this, I said, oh my gosh, this is like BP on land. Because your well is a half a mile deeper than the BP oil spill. So that was 1 mile below the ocean bottom. This is 1.5 miles deep. And it's a well that's out of control. And the same people they called in to try to plug the well, the same companies they called in to try to plug the BP oil spill and that well, the Macondo well. So there are some similarities, and so we actually have some experts and some people in place that we can actually bring in quickly, in part because of all my years working on the BP oil spill. So let's talk a little bit about your case. So I can't read that far. So Erin already went over these. So we've received a number of calls from people, and these are the health concerns that we are hearing about the most. One of the things that would be really helpful tonight is if you're experiencing something that's not on that list, please tell us. So there are a lot of people in the room, and I know a lot of people are private. I'm pretty private. And so there may be some of you who don't want to stand up at that microphone afterwards and talk about what's happening to you. If you email us, that's fine. It's just information is so valuable to us. And so there could be issues that you're experiencing that aren't there that we should know about. And that would be really helpful. So just keep that in mind. So that's the list that we're hearing about the most. I think Erin covered them all. Okay, so there's special considerations on health that we're hearing a lot from people. And the number one, of course, is children. So children's bodies are tiny, and the gas in the air is going to have a greater impact on them than they are on those of us who are bigger. And so 1-year-old babies are going into respiratory distress and have to be taken to the emergency room. 1-year-old babies are having nosebleeds that they've never had before. Children who are going to school are coming home with crashing headaches, throwing up, nosebleeds they've never had before. There's nothing worse than seeing our kids sick. I mean, I'm a mother of 2, my kids are grown now, but I don't know what I would do if I was in your situation. I can't even go there because you have that difficult choice. Like, what do you do? Your kids are in school, it's holiday time, it's the end of the semester. I mean, things wrap up in school at this time of year. There's holiday parties. There's all these things that go on at this time of year. So you send your kids to school and they get the benefits of all that, but then they get all the detriments of getting sick. You take them out, you take them from their friends, you take them from their community, you take them from their teachers, you take them from their stable environment. Some of you have written to us, you have children who have some special needs. The school you're at right now addresses those special needs. If you take them out, you may not get those special needs addressed in the new school. You have other issues. So many of you in the room are facing very different things. And I probably have only heard 5% of the 100% that you're experiencing right now. And so again, hearing about those things, learning about them are really important to us, because frankly, some people call me and they say things and I'm like, wow, I never gave that a thought. So we've worked in a lot of communities, but trust me, there are so many things each one of you is dealing with that is unique to yourself. So elderly parents, that's another thing I hear about. People are really worried about their elderly parents. Either their elderly parents who are coming to stay with them for the holiday, or their elderly parents who live here. They're worried because elderly people have a more compromised system sometimes than people who are middle-aged or younger. So that's another concern I hear a lot about. And then a lot of you have given me really interesting information about your pets. So pets frequently are outside a lot. People aren't really thinking about bringing them inside, so they're outside. They're breathing this all day, and they're having some really bad reactions. So someone told me their dog sneezes all the time. I've heard that dogs are throwing up a lot. I've heard dogs have lesions and rashes. I've heard a lot about pets. So it's another issue, and pets are also an issue with relocation, and we'll get to that in a minute when we talk about relocation. So these are some of the special, and I'm not even talking about the adults in the room. So adults frequently put themselves last, because all those other issues come first. But your health's important too. But you're always probably considering all the other people in your family before you're thinking about yourself. So, now nuisance. Is that a horrible word? That's what the law calls it. So, I'm sorry I put nuisance up there, but I'm a lawyer. And so the law calls what's happening to you a nuisance. Not a good choice of words. It should be called disaster, dreadful, something else. But that's the legal term. And what that basically means is it's disrupting your life. Every single solitary thing that's happening to you that I would call a but-for test. But for the gas leak, would this happen to me? But for the gas leak, would I have to do this? But for the gas leak, would this stuff be happening? That's what I want you all to be thinking about your particular life. Each one of you in the room who lives here, who's experiencing whatever you're experiencing, I want you to think about that. And so one of the things, again, I'm focusing on parents, again, and the school concerns. What are your concerns? Are you worried about your kids' educational experience? Are you worried if you have a junior in high school and they're taking their SATs? Are you worried if your child is a sophomore and they're really worried about doing well so they can have a good resume for college? Are you worried about your child who just started kindergarten and had a really hard time adjusting and now is finally adjusted and happy to go to school, and now you're going to yank your child out 5 or 6 years old and put him or her in some place where they know nobody, they don't know the teacher, and you're going to go through all that again. Everything in between. So think about how the gas leak is disrupting your life as a parent and how it's disrupting your children's life, because you all of you adults in the room, you speak for your children, right? So your 5-year-old is not going to come to court and tell a judge what's happening to him or her. You're going to do it. So you really need to think about how that's happening, and I know, because frankly, a lot of moms have called me, some dads, more moms, which happens in every case, by the way. You guys have to call them. The other thing about kids is the social and the friends aspect. If you relocate, your kids can't go next door anymore and see their friends. This is a cool community. I've never been here before, but we drove around and we were in the Renaissance area, and I assume that all your kids are friends with their neighbors, right? They go next door, they have play dates next door, you call the mom or dad next door and say, hey, I have to run somewhere, can you watch Johnny for an hour? And you probably do that every single day. If you have to move and relocate, you lose that. Because you're not going to all get picked up and put in the same spot. It's not like they're going to find another Renaissance somewhere and put all of you in the same homes, in the same distance, in the same environment. So you're going to give up a lot of things there, and you have to think about that. And you have to think about what that means to your individual life. I don't mean to be a downer, but I want you to think about all these things, because these are all the things that you're experiencing because of the gas leak, that you shouldn't have to be experiencing. The other thing is your children's health. So if you send your child to school because you decide that maybe the educational part's more important, or equally important, or their social environment so important, then you have that Hobbesian choice. But my child's coming home with nosebleeds. My child's coming home throwing up. And how does that make you feel? So what do? I don't have an answer, but as Erin said, I think that for school, in particular, There is absolutely no reason why the gas company can't find some empty office building or part of an empty office building and make a temporary school. It may not be perfect. It may not have a fancy gym. It may not have the best art. It may not have the best music room. But honestly, they can be educated and they can be together because your kids, I mean, look, adults are more resilient than, I don't know, maybe children are more resilient than adults. I'm not sure about that. But children shouldn't have to suffer right now. I mean, let's put it that way. That's my view. Adults, I mean, we sort of accept the fact that's part of our lives. We have to suffer for our kids. But your kids should be put in a situation where there's the least disruption possible, given the fact that you're disrupted, right? There's nothing that changes the fact that you're big time disrupted right now. But they should be doing every single solitary thing in their power right now to do minimum damage to your children. And that, to me, is key. The number one thing here is to get you to a safe alternative house if you want to move, and to get your kids in a safe school so they can still learn. They can still learn with the same teachers, and they can learn with their same buddies in the classroom. That's only fair. So I really want to focus on that with this community. Okay, so relocate or not? I don't know what to tell you. You clearly have gas in your air. You're clearly breathing it, and most of you in the room are clearly having physical reactions from it. I think that relocating is something that probably every single person in this room has given serious consideration to. But then I hear stories like the following. I'm a family of 5, so I have 3 children and a dog, and they put me in a 1-room hotel where I can't take my dog. I said, you gotta be kidding me, they can't do that. Well, they did. So people have to find another place for their dog. They have 5 people, 3 kids running around 1 room. A hotel room is pretty small, by the way, as you all know. And then I had this one mom write to me. I don't know why I remember this, but it really, hey, she's Christmas shopping right now. And she said, I have nowhere to hide the Christmas presents from my kids because I can't go home. And I go shopping and I have to come home because I only have a couple hours. And there's nowhere to hide it. I can't put it anywhere. There's just nowhere in my room. I can't even, their kids have nowhere to do their homework. So they're in these little tiny quarters. So I ask again, if they have caused you to not be able to live in your home, why can't they get you an alternative home? Why should you be put in a 1-room hotel? There's something so fundamentally unfair and wrong about that. If you have pets, you should not have to leave your pets behind. Kids shouldn't have to leave their pets behind. There's enough stress right now on everybody. You shouldn't have to make those choices. It's not right. So whether you relocate or not, again, is personal. But if you're going to relocate, give them pushback. Tell them, I'm not going to take that facility. I'm not going to take a 1-room hotel room. I want a house. And I want a house that's close to wherever you need to be. I don't know where that is. And unfortunately, for those of you who are parents, it has to be somewhat integrated with what happens with the schooling. And so I think it's a little complicated right now. I don't have a clear answer for you on that. Okay, so it's holiday time. It's a hard time of year. Think about that in your nuisance and your disruption of life. This is a time of year where people are usually super festive. It's a happy time of year, and for you guys, not so much. And so that is an additional burden on your lives, an additional disruption of your life. It sounds insignificant, but it's not actually. It's really not. I was looking at all the Christmas lights outside and all the different holiday decorations, and you know, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You want to be happy, you want to celebrate, but there's really not much to celebrate about right now. So again, a huge disruption in your life. Okay, extra expenses and the financial drain. So, if you relocate, you still have to pay your mortgage on your house. You still have to heat it. Well, I guess you guys don't have colds. You still have to do various upkeep in your house. You have to go make sure that the house is not having problems. You probably have to drive further now. You might be in a place where you can't cook, so you have to go out to eat. If you're in a hotel room, you're not cooking, so you have to go out to eat. Think about that. It's a lot more expensive to go to a restaurant than it is to eat and cook at home. Think about the extra travel you had. What is your time worth, right? If you have to go do all these extra things because you've been relocated, what is your time worth? So I want you to be thinking about all those things when you think about how this is disrupting your life. Okay, stress. I mean, stress is a huge issue here. I guarantee that all of you, if you stop long enough to think about it, you would realize how stressed you are, but you probably are on such a treadmill right now trying to figure out what to do. You haven't had a chance to think about that. But that's another huge disruption in your life. You have a lot of stress put on you by a third party. Not fair, not right. And the law compensates for those kind of things. And last, you can't go about your daily life. That sort of loops back to disruption. That's a value, right? We have a right to go about our daily lives, and you have had that disrupted. Okay, property devaluation. Some of you are property owners, and I know you're all thinking about this. What's my house worth now? Like, I have this house, so I don't know about you, but when we bought our house, we put a huge amount of our savings in our house. And I thought, well, gee, my house is going to appreciate over time because houses usually do. And so at least I'll get my money back when I'm ready to downsize. And I'm sure every single homeowner here is thinking to themselves, wow, that was my nest egg. And now, what's my house worth? Even if this gas leak is plugged up next week, I don't know, if you want to move, is someone going to want to buy it? Are they going to worry that another gas leak is going to happen? I'm not saying that this is going to be long-term. It may not. The market may balance, but I guarantee all of you in the room are worried about that who are homeowners. What's it going to be worth in 4 months? And what about next year and the year after? If it really takes 4 months to plug up this well, or longer, they say 4 months, who knows what it's going to be? What does that do to the overall long-term value of your home? I mean, right now, probably impossible to sell your house. But I mean, I suppose the market will always sell it for something, but you wouldn't get fair market value for it. Okay, property issues. Some of you are renters, some of you are owners, and some of you are landlords. So, if you're an owner, pretty obvious, you have a house, you can't really live in it properly, so you have, and if in fact you tried to sell it and you can't sell it for fair market value, and you want to move anyway, there would be what's called a diminution in value. If you're a renter, that does not mean you don't have a nuisance. I want everyone in this room to understand that. If you are a renter, the only thing you don't have is diminution in property value. Other than that, you're the same as every single person in this room. So your children are in the same boat as the owners. Your pets are in the same position as the owners. And whether you relocate is the same. So the only difference for you if you're a renter is you don't get diminution in property value because you don't own the property. But you have another interesting thing. Let's say you have a year's lease and you're 3 months into it. You want to break your lease. I mean, technically you signed a lease for a year. You're probably worried, if I break my lease, can they go after me for the other 9 months? If you're a landlord and you depend on that money for your income and your renter walks out because they say it's not safe for me to live in your house, you're probably thinking, what am I going to do? I can't rent that place now. Nobody's going to rent it. So now I've lost all that money in rental value. So these are all the things that are individualized depending on who you are in the room. And each of you are going to be different in that. Okay, I beg of you, whether you sue or don't, whether you come with us or some other law firm, keep a daily journal. I beg of you to do that. Every community I've ever been to that's dealt with odors, I ask them to do this. And the best we've ever had is 10% compliance, the best. I don't know why people don't do it, and I know why, because you're thinking to yourself, I'm never gonna forget this. Like, I'm gonna remember every detail. 5 years from now, this is gonna be so clear in my mind, but you know, it won't be. It won't be. Time heals everything. And so 5 years from now, you're gonna say, wow, did I smell that every 3 days? Was it every 5 days? Did I relocate after a month or 3 months? So, we gave some examples of journals. Hopefully you picked one up. If you didn't on the way in, pick it up on the way out. You should be keeping, it should just be something you photocopy 20 pages of it and keep it somewhere where all you have to do is jot down the date and the time and your location. Okay? So if you're home, 9 o'clock in the morning, December 15th. Odor, there's a column for odor. I smelled rotten eggs. Physical condition, I had a headache that day. I threw up. what I had a skin rash, whatever it is. And then there's a column for other. Something that you don't just, I don't know what other is, I can't help you with that, but there might be something else that happens. I had to take my dog to the vet and had a $500 vet bill because my dog passed out, and it turns out maybe from the gas leak. Okay, that's an other for that day. Those are the kind of things you should remember, and you won't remember it if you don't keep a journal. So I beg all of you to keep a journal for yourself. It's not for me, it's for you. Because someday, if you join a lawsuit and you don't do a class action, you are going to have an opportunity to tell the gas company in a deposition what they did to you. And you will do a better job if you can go to your journal and say, actually, I can tell you exactly what happened to me. I can tell you what happened to me every single day for 6 months. Would you like to hear that? And that is so powerful. That is so incredibly powerful to each and every one of you. I promise you, it's super powerful. And the gas company doesn't want you to keep that journal. That is the most important thing to think about. They don't want you to keep it. Keep receipts. So again, extra gas receipts, going out to dinner because you can't cook at home, vet bills, taking your children to the doctor, having to go buy things to help with nosebleeds, having to buy extra medicine for headaches, for nausea. All of those things are expenses that you should not have to incur yourself. What I recommend to people to do is take like a shoebox and stick it somewhere, and every time you go to the store and you purchase something that you think is something that the but-for test again, but for the gas leak, I wouldn't have to buy this, but for the gas leak, I wouldn't have had to fill my tank with gas just now, or maybe it's a quarter tank more than you needed. Circle it if it's only half or whatever, be honest about it, and stick it in the shoebox and put it away. Don't think about it. Just stick it in the shoebox, and at some point in time, if you're in a lawsuit and you do an individual case and you get to show someone all the injury, all the expenses that you had over and above what you should have, you'll have that shoebox and you'll be able to prove it. It won't be, well, gee, I think I spent X amount more. Can't hurt to keep that shoebox. I would say keep receipts and be generous. If you're not sure whether it should be an expense, save it. We can always tell you that it's not an appropriate expense. We can always say to you, you know what, the law doesn't let you get that. That's okay, but if you don't save it, we can never have that discussion. So I would say oversave, and we can always work through that at the right time. Okay, do not sign anything without talking to an attorney. I don't know, actually, whether the gas company is having you sign anything when they relocate you, or when they, I don't know, whatever they're doing, when they reimburse you. So if those of you who have relocated, apparently they reimburse you for your food costs after you expend them. Do not sign anything other than, obviously you should sign that your receipts are honest. That's not what I'm saying. But I worry that at times like this, sometimes companies get a little clever and they can have you sign something. It says, I give up my rights to, because I relocated you, I've given up my rights for nuisance, or I've given up my rights to sue for the past 3 months, or whatever it happens to be. Please, 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 if you're given something to sign like that, talk to an attorney and say, am I giving up any rights by signing this? You may not be, but ask someone. So we had a case in New Jersey, I did it with Erin, and a lovely large corporation did something called good neighbor payments, and they knew they had polluted the heck out of this neighborhood. And they went around, but the neighbors didn't know yet. And they went around and they literally knocked on doors. And they said, hi, I won't say their name, I don't want to get in trouble. I'm so-and-so, and I work for the company down the road, and I know from time to time we've been a little bit of a nuisance. So we'd like to give you a check for $1,500. I mean, how many times do people knock on your door and offer you $1,500? So a lot of people took it, a lot. Guess what? They signed away their entire rights to ever bring a lawsuit, ever. And the court found in favor of the defendant, and none of the people who signed it, not a single person who signed it, could bring a lawsuit. Even though some of them ended up getting cancer, some of them lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on their house. But they couldn't because they had signed that piece of paper. So I know that's an extreme, and they literally called it a good neighbor payment. They literally knocked on the door and said, I want to be a good neighbor. So, beware. I'm not saying they're going to do that in your case. I'm really not. I don't know, but I'm just giving you past examples that I want to prevent you from experiencing. Okay, lawsuit. So I'm a lawyer, so that's what I do for a living. I know that there's been discussion among other lawyers and probably many of you in the community. Do you do what we call a mass tort? I'll tell you what that is in a minute, or a class action. I'm going to tell you what the difference is, and I'm going to tell you what we're doing. A class action is what's already been filed by a couple of law firms, and that's where you have what's called class representatives. It could be 2, 3, 4, 5 people. It doesn't really matter how many people. And they are deemed the individuals who will represent the interests of the whole. And so they are put out there to basically litigate the case on behalf of the community. And then there's certain like generalities. So for property damage or for nuisance or for, I don't know, the one I saw didn't have a health component, but I think there's one now that has a health component. And so all of you in the room don't have an individual lawsuit. You're part of a class, and at some point in time, if there's a settlement, you would get notice of that settlement, and you would fit into some category. You'd fill it out, you'd sign it, and you'd get whatever is given for whatever your category is. And you'd have to file a long claim form, and then it goes through a claims administrator, and eventually you get paid. Or if there's not a settlement and there's a trial, then those 5 people, if it's 5 class representatives, would try the case on behalf of all of you. So none of you in the room, except for those class representatives, would actually testify at trial and talk about what occurred. That's class action. A mass tort is each individual person who has suffered loss or damage as a result of the gas leak is actually named in the complaint. So you would be named in the caption, and there would be a paragraph for you, probably more than one paragraph. It would identify you, and in that complaint, we would say what damage you've suffered to date from the oil spill. From the gas leak. Sorry, I went back to EP for a minute. So that's what a mass tort is. And then you have your individual damages. So all the things I've been talking to you about today, we believe, we at the table here, think that everyone's situation is different. Like there's no one size fits all in this room, I don't think, or in this community. And so we think it's important that each person have his or her voice, his or her children's voice, to be able to stand up at some point in time and say, this is how you hurt me, and this is what I want in return for you hurting me. Now, you may be a person who doesn't want to do that, right? So you may be a person who says, I don't ever want my name in a complaint. I don't want to do that. I want to sit back, and I want to let someone else do that for me. And if you're that person, the class action may be a good route. But our lawsuit, you have to work. So in our lawsuit, you have to tell us every single person who decides they want to sue and be in our lawsuit, we will contact you and we will learn about what's happening to you. And we will ask you to tell us what's happening to you and to keep us informed. And we will make sure that your individual stories are told. And so that's really the difference between a mass tort and a class action. Now we're going to try to file our first lawsuit next week. And so it'll have whoever has already decided they want to sue and who's ever given us a contract, because we can't sue on your behalf without that. That's what the law says. It doesn't matter, we can bring more, there's no rush. I am not here to put pressure on you. You have enough pressure in your life, you don't need anything from me. So there's a lot of people in this community, you might want to think about what you want to do. And we can always bring more and more lawsuits, because remember, they're individual cases. So if you decide today, tomorrow, or 2 months from now, I do want to sue, you can contact us then, and we'll add you to the lawsuit. It's not a problem. But we are going to try to start, we are going to, not even try, we are ready to go next week. So we'll have something filed by a week from today. So that's class versus mass tort. You can ask questions about that if you want. I'm going to go fast because I don't want to use up too much more time. If you decide you want to be a client in our mass tort, these are the things you have to do. You have to sign a retainer agreement. You have to fill out a questionnaire so we know a little bit about what's happening to you. We'll obviously call you for more information. We don't ask too much on the questionnaire because it's important that we don't know too much about you until we have an attorney-client relationship. Because until we have that relationship, then what you tell us and what we tell you isn't privileged. And so when you get into the nitty-gritty, we want that privileged. And so that's what the retainer agreement does, and then everything's privileged. We'll ask you to keep a journal again. We'll keep telling you, asking you to keep a journal. We'll ask you to keep receipts. And then what's next? Obviously, some of you will be critical to an injunction. Those of you who have children, we'll want to have you help us craft the injunction for alternative schools. For those of you who have situations where you want to relocate, where you can bring pets, where you can't do it right now, we'll want you to work with us to help craft an injunction to make them find you a place where you can continue the quality of your life if you need to be relocated. Those are the kind of things, and there's probably other things that you're thinking about, like why isn't she mentioning that we haven't thought about yet, but that we'll work with you on. Okay, here's our contact information. This is the website page where you can find a lot of the information. It's like a landing page, and it'll have where you can fill out a questionnaire. We brought retainers tonight. We brought the questionnaire, and we brought some journal examples. So even if you don't take the questionnaire or the retainer agreement, take the journal, because whatever you do, even if you never join a lawsuit, you can always throw it away, right? You don't have to ever use it. But if you don't keep it, you won't have it. So, so I've saved time. I'm sorry, I went for too long. I'm going to, if anyone has anything else, I think at this point we can open the floor to questions. What we did was we have a mic here, and I think what usually works best is people just come, stand in line, ask the question, and if that works, people can just come up and ask questions if they want. I'm sorry, can I do one more thing before? I'm sorry, can I be rude for a minute? So I always do this when I do meetings. So if there's anybody here from Southern California Gas or Sempra Energy or a state regulator who would like to speak, here's the microphone. You are welcome to come up here and talk to the community. I never chill anyone's voice. So if there's anyone here from one of those, I'm sure there is, I know there is. I've never done a meeting when there hasn't been. No pressure, you don't have to. But if you want to, I think everyone here would be happy to hear from you, and we welcome you.
Thank you again for coming out tonight. First question I have. We're coming into the rainy season, and it's more of a meteorological question. How will the rains affect us with all the methane, the cappings in the air? What will happen when the rains come down? Does it push it down? Does it wash into our city?
That's a good question. What happens when it rains is that you can get a different type of what we call a dispersion condition. And what's happening right now is when the release of the gas is up in the mountains, maybe 1,000 feet higher than Porter Ranch in elevation. But what happens, like currently at night, you get what we call katabatic winds, stable downslope winds. They follow the terrain. And during rain, that can happen too. But during the rain, you might get a different wind direction. You might get more of a south wind that may blow it away. So rain may actually help you. What's happened in the last 2 months is we've just been locked into this drought where every storm is dry and we get these northwest winds following it. And same thing happening in Ojai. Every time the storm goes through, we get north winds for days on end. And the data from Porter Ranch show the same thing. So it depends on what the winds are during the rain. But I think during the rain, you might actually get east winds or south winds that would take it away from the community. It might be good.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. So I applied for a relocation last Friday. I have 2 young children, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and 2 small dogs. We got a phone call today from the gas company that said that apparently there's a lot of places that are booked, so they're working on it. But then we got a different call that said that if we did not accept the offer for relocation, we may qualify for a home purification system.
What's a home purification system to keep the gas out of the house? I mean, I've heard there's gas extraction.
I heard you can put air filters, but my question today is, do I trust if I take the offer of a home purification system?
No, you can do both.
Then
You can do both.
You know, I want to defer to you on that one. I think
You're not, I don't know what it is. It positive pressure, negative pressure? Where's the air coming from? I mean, there's just too many questions associated with that. And, I wouldn't think that it would be something that I would take as an option,
Right.
because, there's just too many questions about it. And I don't know. I find it most perplexing that they're offering you a home purification system, but there's nothing wrong. So I don't know how to evaluate what they're doing. What are they taking out of the air? So, short answer, no. If they offer you relocation, get out.
Los Angeles County actually ordered them to relocate people, had nothing to do with air filters.
Exactly. And I was telling someone earlier today, Angelo Bellomo from Los Angeles County Department of Health that actually issued that order. We've crossed paths many times, and I will tell you, he is one of the most conservative individuals in regulatory authority I've ever worked with. And when I heard he issued that order, it said a lot to me. So, I mean, for him to do that, there is something very serious going on here.
Hello, how do we know that if your law firm has enough attorneys to treat each case individually? Because I called an attorney last week from a different firm that I just found on the internet, and it took like a whole week to get back. Not your firm, a different one. So how do we know that you are going to have enough attorneys to handle our cases individually?
That's a good question. So it's not that we would bring 1,000 individual cases. It would be a case with many of you in it, and we have a pretty big team of people working on this already. And so let me tell you what usually happens in a mass tort. I'm really glad you asked that, because I neglected to explain this. So there's no way a judge can hear 1,000 cases at once, obviously. It's impossible. So what usually happens in a mass tort is everyone's story is told in a complaint. So it'll be a pretty long complaint. That's okay. I've seen 1,000-page complaints many times. And then what frequently happens is the parties get together and select what's called test cases or bellwether cases. And so you look at let's say there's, I'm going to make a number, 500 people who decide to sue individually. So you look at the 500 people and you pick some people who have children who had school issues. You pick 5 people who had issues with relocating with pets or elderly parents. You pick people who don't have any of that and lived further away. And so their days of odor and illness were less. You pick people who live across the street who got dosed every day. And so you pick, you come up with a matrix, and you pick people in each one, and that's the first phase. And those people move forward in the first phase, and the discovery, which is like having depositions and having to answer questions and having to give documents. The case is super heavy litigated with those people. And then the next phase comes. And so people are phased. There's no question about it. All 1,000 people don't go at once. But what's unique about a mass tort versus a class action is each one of your damages are individually assessed. And that's not true for a class action. So let's say now, let's go back to the example, and you have your those test cases are tried, and they're won. Now you have some learning lessons from those. Then let's say the defendant comes and says, I just want to settle this case. I don't want to have another 800 trials. So then each person would evaluate what their damages are. And then there would be literally a matrix of, this is the damage for this type of injury, and this is how we can show that these 40 people fit here and these 20 people fit here. But each person is individualized, and those individual damages are assessed. So yeah, you need a lot of resources, no question about it. There are a lot of people who have to answer your questions, get your documents. I mean, you have to work in a lawsuit, right? So when the defendant asks for documents in a lawsuit, a document request, we have 30 days usually to give the documents. Sometimes you get an extension. You have to get us those documents. I mean, you can't just sit back and do nothing. So you're a participant, you're a I'll call a partner in the lawsuit to get the best resolution for yourself possible. I don't know if that answers your question, but I mean, we have resources and we'd have to bring in more. I mean, obviously, if 1,000, 2,000 people signed up, we would get the resources. We've done it many times. We've had lawsuits with more. We have one lawsuit right now with 4,000 clients in Pennsylvania. We have a huge team of people working on that case. So it can be done, it's just a lot of resources.
Yeah, a quick non-lawyer answer to that question. Erin and I do this in 49 of the 50 states for 20 years. They have a specialized team, they answer your phone calls. It will actually be an experience quite the reverse. They will probably bug you more trying to get your information turned in than them not returning your call. So they'll be there for you. Or Erin and I wouldn't be sitting here.
Thank you so much for being Thank you so much for being here. You made some good suggestions for relocating the affected schools until the league is fixed. But how do we get the LAUSD to relocate the students and the teachers when they return from winter break?
So we've talked about that. So I think the first thing to do is to help figure out a location where it could happen. And maybe bring all the stakeholders together. I mean, there's a 3-week holiday, so there's an opportunity. I would call now an opportunity rather than a negative. There's 3 weeks when kids aren't going to be in school anyway. And it seems to me that if we had enough people interested in this, could bring people together, help find a location. I know there's someone here, Lana, I don't know where you are right now, but she's talked to, I'm sorry if I've called out your name and shouldn't have, but I've talked to her to get some ideas of locations. Maybe there's an office building nearby. I've talked to Bob about that. There has to be facilities around here where they can put a Band-Aid on. It's a Band-Aid, it's not perfect, but you're right, the school's gonna have to go along with it. Now, I mean, to me, I would hope that if we could get the defendant to agree or get a court to order it, that the school wouldn't give pushback. I mean, why would they? It seems to me they want to keep their teachers safe. Hopefully they want to keep the kids safe. So I don't see the downside. Like, why would anyone fight that if we could find a solution? So I think this is a time to try to find a solution, and I don't think it necessarily has to be adversarial. It would be better if we could sit in a room with the gas company, the school district, and maybe a group of parents who decide they want to be the spokespeople, and maybe some realtors, because we need realtors, frankly, very much, to help us locate facilities, and say, let's try to figure out a solution for 4 months. Because, you know, almost the whole semester. I mean, frankly, 4 months is through April. So really, they should come up with a solution for second semester, and then let the kids go back to the school in the fall of 2016. That seems to me it's the right solution. Can I promise you it'll work? No, but I promise I'll try. And I fight. Sure.
Hello. Thank you for being here today. I have my son will almost be 2 this month. Well, he'll be 2 this month. And you know, my number one concern is for his health and the long-term side effects of this chaos that's been going on. I contacted SoCal Gas yesterday for relocation, and although I want to live in a house, and I realize, you know, that may take longer, I've asked them to place me in a hotel, and I actually contacted a local hotel about 15 miles out where I work, and I made a reservation. I called them and I said, I made a reservation, can you take care of this for me? And they said yes, so that they took care of everything for me, which was great. The question that I have is, and I haven't signed anything with them, they haven't asked me to sign anything, do I waive my rights for a lawsuit against them if I do this? In addition to that, one of the ladies that was here earlier said about the filtration. I got a call today about the filtration. And they said, would you like a filtration, and would you like anyone to contact you regarding this filtration? So when somebody does contact me regarding this filtration, should I say, yes, I want it? They say it's no cost, etc. Now, I did tell them that, yeah, have them call me, but I didn't agree that I want it. Do I waive my rights?
So you don't, I mean, again, assuming there's something you have to sign.
So I had two questions.
So you would, assuming there's something to sign, you don't waive your rights, because remember that page I showed you with the nuisance?
Yes.
So think about it. You're having to leave your home, you're going to have additional expenses, your child's going to be stressed not being in his or her home. I think you said you have a son, right?
Yes.
So he's going to be upset. So you still have nuisance. And you still have the stress of relocation. So yes, you do not lose your rights at all. Again, I don't know what they're gonna have you sign. Now, are they saying they'll do both? That they'll both put this filtration on your house and relocate you?
Yes, but it wasn't the same people that I spoke to regarding this. It was two different people. So I spoke to the relocation people, and then somebody from SoCal Gas called me and said, hey, this is what we're doing for the community. We're gonna put filters. And I heard about this yesterday, I believe, I read it somewhere or something like that, where they're putting in filtration systems, which really doesn't make sense to me. Why would they even do that? But do I waive my right if I told them, yeah, have someone call me?
No, you do not.
But don't have anybody put the filtration system. That's
well, I mean, I'm not saying don't do that. I don't. If you have them put the filtration system on, again, you don't waive your rights. But what I don't know is whether the filtration system would make your house safe. I suspect not, based on what I'm hearing. So, how many people have been offered filtration on their homes? Oh, wow. And this is just a call out of the blue. They call you and say, would you like it? You call them.
They've called them.
Email. Okay. Then call. So, who can explain the filtration?
Okay, so they called me today and they said that I have an option to get the filtration, and I said, I've already been relocated. Does that mean I could go back? Or does that mean, while I'm away? Because I still go back and forth to get my mail, or my dog's uncomfortable at the hotel. So they said, no, you could go back, we'll put it in your home for 3 to 4 months, and we'll also do a stripping around, like a seal around the windows or the garage door or whatever. And I said, well, I wasn't sure what else to ask them. And they said, well, you don't have to take the offer, but we'll call you back. If they call you, we'll go ahead and you could decide then. I said, oh, okay. So they'll put us, I guess they're putting people on the list for that.
Anyone who understands this?
Yeah, so my husband and I were relocated to a hotel temporarily as well until they could place us in a house because we have two large dogs. So then after I got that call from the relocation company, I got a call directly from SoCal Gas asking if I wanted these systems. So I guess they put new filters in with some sort of a charcoal to filtrate, as well as they're calling it an air scrubber on the actual unit.
Right.
So she called me and said, are you interested in that? And I said, well, we're relocating, do we have to pick one or the other? And she said, absolutely not, you can do both. So I said, yes, put me on that list as well. So,
Your dog
yes, and that's why I opted, because I said, we've got two large animals and they're not going to be comfortable in a hotel, so we do have to leave them at home and go back and forth while we stay at a hotel until they find us a house, hopefully. So while our animals are there, we want them to be at least a little nint of safety, so that's why we opted for that. So.
I don't have enough information to give you a clear answer, but I've heard enough different pieces of information to say it really gives a false sense of security, and it's very suspect when I hear they're gonna tape up your house and seal it all. It sounds like a prison to me, you know, because the air inside your house. Homes are, no two homes in here, unless you're an exact cookie cutter of your next door neighbor in a particular tract, are the same. The internal air and things associated with that, and attic space, and the heating systems, and the air conditioning systems, and the types of windows you have, and if you have kids and dogs, come on, sealing up the house, is that realistic? So I'm just hearing too many things that are suspect. An internal air filter with charcoal will take out, you know, the volatile organics in the air. It'll take out volatile organics that aren't even associated with this gas spill. And there's, you know, a value in that. But in reality, it's a false sense of security. I mean, I don't think it's something that you should consider. I don't think it's something that's going to accomplish anything. And frankly, my answer, and forgive me for this, it's off the cuff, it's like, you know, how stupid do you think I am?
So Erin asked me to comment with the person who was asking about the school, the woman who came up and asked about the school issue. So the complaint will have a request for an injunction. What I was trying to say is that'll be in the legal document, and if we have to go that way, fine, but I was hoping that in the first instance we could all sit down together, again, as I said, parents, some realtors, Southern Cal, and the school district, and try to come up with a solution. But there will also be a legal mechanism for it if we can't do it collaboratively.
Good evening. Oops. Good evening. Some people, they already have some problem, health problem. Like my husband has lung disease, and we live in Chatsworth. And myself, I've felt a few things already, but for me or for him to determine if this is a problem for him, how can you really find out? You know what I'm saying? If he says, okay, it's getting worse, because in the future it can get worse, what he has. But how can you find really, is it because what's happening right now? Or it was really because it's lung disease? How, if there is a lawsuit, how can you look at it? Because I don't think I'm the only one who has a lung problem. I'm sure here there's some other problem. They have lung problem as far as breathing. And if they bring this as a lawsuit, how you will define really this been affected their health to the worst?
That's a great question. So the law says that you take your plaintiff as you find him or her. So that if your plaintiff is someone who has a pre-existing lung disease and the gas exacerbates it, that's what the law says, then that is damage. So they can't say, well, you know, this person already had a lung problem, so it's just a little worse, it's not our problem. We would obviously need a doctor to be able to confirm that. Like, it's not enough for a lawyer or for you or your husband to say that. But if the doctor said, this was the sort of trajectory of his illness, but once his gas leak started, it went from here to here unexpectedly. That is not something that the law says, well, he was going to get sicker anyway. So again, you take your plaintiff as you find him, and so that the injury there would be the acceleration of a problem that pre-existed. People have pre-existing conditions all the time. And if it's made worse by something, the law recognizes that as a damage.
Are you saying that you need to see a doctor to verify that you're ill?
No, I don't. So I think if you have headaches, nausea, nosebleeds, that's the journal. The journal. But if you're under a doctor's care because you're sick, and then it's getting worse, it's important to tell the doctor where you live. By the way, doctors frequently don't put that in the medical record, so make sure if you're one of those people who's under a doctor's care and you're going back anyway and you're getting worse, that you mention to the doctor, by the way, I live in Porter Ranch and I'm smelling this stuff every day and I'm feeling much worse than I did before. Because then they'll put it in the medical record, but they may not if you don't mention that.
being here. I was wondering, I really feel for people here that have kids, and I'm an individual person who just lives in a renter. But I want to know if you have an advocate of some sort that I could talk to help me decide whether I need to relocate. And also, I have had serious skin rash going on since October, but it started a week before the 23rd. But then I always thought, well, then it's not going to be that.
I'm so glad you just said that. I forgot to mention that. So many people have called us and said, you know, I had headaches before October 23rd, and I had nausea before October 23rd. If you look at the disclosure by Southern Cal Gas, this is what they say. That's when we confirmed the gas leak. Confirmed. So if you had symptoms before October 23rd, it was from the gas leak. It didn't suddenly happen on the 23rd. So I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. I'm so glad you asked that question. I don't know when it started, but I've heard enough people who had symptoms before the 23rd. I believe strongly it happened before the 23rd.
My first ER visit was the 14th.
I've heard September, so many people have called us with issues in September.
So, yeah.
Many. How many of you had symptoms in September, like nosebleeds? Look around the room. Prior to September? I haven't heard that. August? When? Yeah, so I don't know, maybe this has been going on for years. You might be right. One of the things Erin's asked me to do, I keep forgetting to do it, is, and it kind of relates to your question and the whole year or longer, is some of you have venting in your house for the gas field, or there's venting in your community, in your area. How many people were given a disclosure when they bought or rented their home that there was venting for the gas field in your home? One person? Just one? Wow. Okay, I'd love you, if you don't mind explaining, that'd be great.
Sorry, come in. I live in the Renaissance, and I was told that I'm one of 6 properties that I signed a methane disclosure when I moved in the home. I have 10 chimneys, although I only have 1 fireplace. I have venting in each and every one of my cabinets, vents that come up to allow the gas to escape through the roof by some act of God. I had to sign that along with the wind advisory that this could be damaging to my health. I signed this in 2010, and I'm one of 6, I'm told. I'm not sure if that's correct.
Thank you. So nobody else got that disclosure though. Okay, what's the likelihood there's only one house in all of Porter Ranch that has that problem? Not possible.
You have to read the fine print, which not a lot of us do sometimes.
Okay, it's true.
So is there an advocate though for me to talk to before next week to decide whether I should relocate?
I don't actually know if there's, if the company has put some public advocates. I mean, you can certainly call our firm. We can help you, of course. But if you're looking for sort of a public advocate that
no,
from
to decide whether.
Oh, you can call us. Oh, absolutely. So you can. There's people in the back. My colleagues are in the back. I'm going to be around afterwards. We can talk. So yes, I'm sorry. I thought you meant like a public advocate. No, you can definitely talk to one of us. We have people in the back. Okay. A lot of my colleagues back there.
And a lot of people have relocated. I didn't even consider doing any of this until the news last night when I saw them
the infrared
tell about that and the infrared, and then they mentioned somebody who had like nosebleeds, and I had just finished with my nosebleed. And
right, and you said you have rashes. A lot of people have experienced rashes. It's another common symptom is rashes.
We heard that you said, come on up for the mic, the gentleman here that's going to ask the next question. But we heard that, you know, this is something in Porter Ranch that you've experienced for years. There were symptoms before September, the confirmed date in October, all those issues. This is not unusual. This is an open and active and ongoing investigation. Now, there is a date certain when something catastrophic occurred, but it could be the indicator of a series of historic problems that they've had in this gas field. Everyone in this room knows that that was a production well, an old production well that they converted to a storage well illegally. And they were taking gas, which is why it has the mercaptan in it. Natural gas doesn't have mercaptan in it. And they were storing it down this well illegally without a permit. I heard them say today they had an illegal permit, but what they were doing was illegal, and they should be punished for that. And the governor's administration better get their together and get out here and take care of that. But in the meantime, the investigation's going to continue, and those past issues will come to light because of this catastrophic event. You heard Robin talk about her work with the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. All the other oil guys are seriously pissed off at BP because while they were investigating the BP gas leak, we caught a bunch of other people cheating. You're going to find that occurrence here in Porter Ranch.
Yeah, so I can tell you a lot about that prior occurrences. But one question, in the interest you said about being united, have you guys heard of the group called, local advocacy group called Save Porter Ranch? And do you plan on working with them at all? And do you plan on working with them at all?
Absolutely, they're a resource. We plan on coordinating, working, getting your information, sharing your information, following up on your information. We'll share our stuff if you share your stuff. That's what an open investigation is all about.
All right, great.
But in keeping with that, so same with lawyers. So just as we want all you to work together, even if you have different views of how to do it, lawyers do the same. We proceed with cases different ways. We have different views of how a case should proceed, but we all have presumably the same interests in heart, this is all of you, and the same defendants. So people work together all the time, even though they have different clients. It doesn't matter. We really all need to work together, because if we don't, it only helps the defendant. So I really always believe lawyers should collaborate with each other.
Right, thank you.
Hi there. I'm a Porter Ranch resident. 2 small children just requested relocation as well. In addition to that, I'm also a small business owner in the town center here. And with over 1,000 families already relocated, our business is now at risk of suffering. How do we fit into all of this?
You guys have, again, talking about how you need an individual action. Anyone here who's a local business owner, unquestionably you're going to have loss. I mean, people are leaving the community. Of course you're going to have loss. So businesses, big time, are going to have good damages. I mean, you're going to have, again, your books will show that. I'm sure you have records from sales in the past, and you're going to see a downturn, I'm sorry to say, but it's true. You know that. You already know that. And so you have a very good claim, but again, you're an individual claim. You really don't fit in a class, because yours, businesses are unique. You're not going to be sick, but you have different business losses. And so anyone who is a small business, give us a call, because
separate from my own personal residence.
You have 2. You get 2 actions. Lucky you. But that's true. So you're a resident and you're a business owner. And so people who are business owners, by the way, who don't live here, similarly can bring a lawsuit.
Thank you.
Something important that she reminded me of here when she's talking about this many people relocating and the impact on the business, it's going to impact things you're not even considering. If you vacate your home, your water system, make sure that everything's turned off. When you go back to your homes at some date certain, and we'll do a newsletter to advise you of this, the plumbing, if everybody on a street leaves and stops using water, the water in that pipe is going to get old and stagnant. It will form biofilm and bacteriological issues. That's what's going to happen to your water distribution system. And so it's very important that when you return, or if you're only using your dogs there and you're feeding your dogs the water that's coming from that stagnant water system, these are all very important things. We applaud the city attorney, Mike Fuhrer, who's doing the suit for the city, those are causes of action that the city's going to experience because they're going to have all this area of water shut down. And it's not just water, it's your electric grid, it's everything is going to be impacted, including your local businesses.
Good evening. We purchased our home about 2 years ago from the builder, who's the Chappelle and now Toll Brothers. And my question is related to the disclosure issue. We have been notified of everything, like the winds, the lead pipes, the earthquakes, but there was not a word of anything about the gas or a gas facility being close by. And I think personally, I would think 3 times, 4 times before purchasing the home if I knew that the whole thing is over there. So my question is, are you going to include the case against the builder, or is it not?
Oh, we've talked about that. So that's hard, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't, and I'm going to be very circumspect when I say that because we're in a public room, and I don't want anything that I say to be used for or against anybody. Well, for yes, not against. I don't know enough. I don't know what you were told, and I don't know how public that gas well is. I just don't know. I've tried to find out, but my inclination is that unless it's pretty obvious and known in the community that there's a huge gas well inches away from you, that may be something that needs to be disclosed. We haven't really looked into that yet. I want to be candid with you. We've thought about it. We've talked about it a lot among my colleagues, but I mean, we need to talk about that some more.
It's an interesting point, and how I'll follow up with it, having experience in other relocation programs involving contamination in large neighborhoods. Regardless of what your particular home builder told you, guess what, guys? You are all now responsible to tell anybody you sell it to. Do you think that's going to impact your property values? You didn't know about it yesterday, but you know about it today. We're all sitting here in front of each other on television, and now you know. You are now required to disclose, regardless what your builder told you. That's part of this action.
The gas company is going to be facing a lot of lawsuits, and so I just wanted to ask, how finite are the funds that are going to be reserved, for settlement, and how are they going to be dispersed? How are they likely to be dispersed?
So this gas company has a lot of assets. So you don't have to worry that it's going to run out of money. It has a lot. It has a lot more than any of you in this room, and they need to pay you fully. So that is not something I don't think anyone in this room needs to be concerned about.
Are they likely to be dispersed towards certain types of claims first and then to others?
That's a good question. I mean, they could. So sometimes what defendants try to do is they try to bite off certain groups. So that's, again, don't sign anything without talking to a lawyer. So they may say, you know what, I'm going to face way too many lawsuits here, so I'm going to go figure out how I can offer some extra incentives for people to not bring a lawsuit. And they may do that. And by the way, some of you may decide, you know what, even though I know I'm only getting 25 cents on the dollar, I just don't want to do a lawsuit. And if that's your decision, you should not feel guilty. You should not think you're a bad person. You may just decide, I just want to be done with this. But they won't ever give you full market value. That I can promise you. They're not going to knock on your door and say, I have evaluated all the things that was on Robin's PowerPoint, and I'm giving you the full value of every single piece of your loss, and so here's, what check would you like? I'll write it out for you. But they may start to do that. They may start to go to different parts of the community and say, I'll put this filter on your house, I'll give you a relocation, and I'm also going to pay you $5,000 for your inconvenience. And they may start doing that. I don't say, has anyone been offered anything like that yet?
No, but I think everybody in this room learned after the Northridge earthquake. Some of us dragged it out for 2.5 years to get full value. So most of the people in this room are smart about that.
Okay, that's great. I don't know if you all heard that. Can I repeat what you said? I'm going to try. That that was tried in the earthquake how many years ago?
1994.
1994, and most people in the community held out to get full value, so that most of you in the room know not to fall for that. So that's great to hear, and so even if you didn't know that, now you know. You have an activist right there who will keep you strong.
Hi. What if you decide to try to file a claim with the gas company and they say, well, let's say you had a renter and they moved out, now you can't make your mortgage payment, and they agree to pay your mortgage. Is that going to impact your ability to sue for any reason similar to that later?
So are you saying that if they offer to pay your mortgage because you wanted to move, would that keep you from suing?
No, I mean, let's say like your renter moved out.
Oh, your renter, I missed that part.
Or you had your home listed, but you had to take it off of the listing because it's not even safe to like have other people go into the city. They instead of them wanting to deal with a lawsuit and lawyers' fees, they decide, well, I'm going to pay for your mortgage for the next 3 months.
So if they do that and they don't make you sign anything, then it doesn't mean you wouldn't have a lawsuit. It would just be minus those damages. So you wouldn't be able to double recover. But if they make you sign something, then assuming they did, that probably would say that you can't sue them anymore. So again, don't sign anything without having a lawyer look at it. Because I don't know if they're doing that, but it would only reduce your damages. So if you have other nuisance value, that doesn't take that away.
Okay, and what if different legal companies or partners, law firms, were suing for the same kind of like complaints in different mass torts or class action lawsuits? So you have one legal firm suing for nuisance and another one, and are the payouts going to be like on a schedule?
Oh, that's a good, so there's something in the law called claim splitting. Boy, it's more than you ever wanted to hear. So you can't be in two different lawsuits. You can't say, oh, in the lawsuit with this firm, I want to bring my property damage claim, but in another case, I want to go with a law firm, I want to wait on the other claim. So you bring all your claims in one case. So you wouldn't have your claims in different cases. So if you are in a lawsuit with XYZ law firm, all of your losses and all of your claims would be in that lawsuit.
What about down the line if you have property diminution and that's way down the line?
Those are monetized now. So that's an interesting question. So in some states, you can't have property diminution until you try to sell your house and are unsuccessful. In other states, it's monetized at the time. Like, so some states actually value your property diminution on the day after the disclosure comes out, which is the greatest number. That's a really good number. Even so, for example, like think about a personal injury case. So someone has a car accident and they break both legs, and then you have your trial, but you're still recovering. You get they predict your future loss. So they say, okay, she's likely to have another 6 months of crutches and another year of physical therapy. And so they monetize that now, but your payments today. And it's the same with property damage. They predict what loss will be based on, I mean, property damage experts do that all the time. Just like Camille talks about what error issues might be, property damage experts come in and say, when these kind of events happen in this kind of community, this is what typically is the loss people will suffer going down the road. Happens, there's people out there who can calculate pretty much anything.
So I guess, so if you choose one law firm and then that mass tort, they get a settlement, for, let's say, nuisance or for health issues, and another law firm is doing the same thing, will the payout be the same to depending on the law firm or depending on what the complaint was? Like,
well, I mean, it would. That's a hard question to answer. I mean, look, every lawyer does things differently. I can't answer that. It depends on who your expert is and how strong your case is and how persuasive you are with a jury. And there's like a million different things that go into how lawsuits come out. It's just impossible to answer that. But
so everything is like mutually exclusive, like a class lawsuit is mutually exclusive of mass tort. You could only do one or the other. You just have to do, like, you can just bring up one lawsuit, right, and that's it.
So yes, you're in one case. Okay. So yeah, there's a long line. If you have more questions, we can talk afterwards.
I
actually had a question for you. How far has the gas traveled? What are the parameters that the gas has traveled? For example, has it gone beyond Northridge, let's say Parthenia Street, Roscoe, and what's the projected travel of this gas?
In the next 4 months.
Okay, those are good questions. First off, I haven't done the analysis yet to see how far it would go. But based on my experience, it would easily travel, well into Northridge, past CSUN, Nordoff, going further down. Probably pretty close to 101. But the levels, the farther you get away from the concentrations go down, and the rate at which it goes down depends on the weather conditions during the release. So, but to answer your question, yes, it would travel that far, but at those distances, are the concentrations very high? I don't know yet.
Okay, and thank you. And also, as far as the 100+ rotten wells that are still existing there, what are your thoughts about essentially shutting them down and having them relocate this site?
I think there's no question that a well integrity expert's going to have to look good and hard at what's going on there and figure out a full remedy here so you don't face this again.
Thank you.
I have a lot of information that I want to present to people.
Would you
Yeah, can I have
your card or something?
for a second?
Okay. Here. Yeah, so.
He knows everything.
Yeah, first of all, can I ask, how many people have attended other meetings already? And how many of you think that the SoCal Gas Company told you what we're actually sitting on? They were honest, gave an idea of what it is and what we're sitting on. Some statistics. We sit on 85 billion cubic feet of natural gas. Underneath that, there's a layer of 60 billion cubic feet that the SoCal Gas Company doesn't work. They pump in all the wells, and how much gas is that? It supplies gas from Bakersfield to San Diego to Santa Barbara to the Arizona state line. If you turned on every gas appliance for 4 months, commercial and real estate, that's what it would take to empty out the well underneath us. It's a natural cavern, it's sealed in hard rock, and it's 4 months worth of gas for every gas utility here.
Billion or million?
No, 85 billion cubic feet of natural gas. They can't replace the storage unit. It's physically impossible. They can't build a complex to manage it. So that's why the gas is here, and the gas is here to stay. There's 114 other wellheads that potentially could happen. So as you guys are thinking about this stuff, you'll say, well, how do I know this information? In the 80s, I'm an airline captain now. I was a flight instructor, and my student managed this gas well up here. And he's the current COO of SoCal Gas. His name is Brett Lane. So when I was flying with him, I used to land my helicopter up here. This well cannot be replaced. They can't move physically the gas because this is gas that gets shipped all the way down to San Diego. It's physically impossible. That's why whatever they do here, they have to do it correctly. Thank you. They can burn off the gas, and then everybody will have a propane bottle in their backyard. There's no physical way to replace this amount of volume of gas. This feeds all of Southern California.
Thank you for being here tonight. You touched on certain classes of people who have, special concerns, children, elderly, and pets. And one group you haven't talked about is pregnant women. My wife here is 7 months pregnant, and we have taken up with them on the relocation. Interestingly, when we called, we thought they would ask what symptoms, what health complaints are we having. They didn't ask anything. The second we said she's pregnant and her doctor has concerns, they had no questions asked. But my thought is, we don't know how this is affecting the baby long term. I've tried to research online on, in medical journals and what the long-term effects of methane and mercaptan are on fetuses and unborn children. Found very little. And kind of related to that, I'm also concerned about, we don't know if the baby's having symptoms now or will when they're shortly after they're born. And is that something that that they could say you're not having health complaints because we can't observe what the child is having? And also on top of that, just another interesting facet of this is we want to have family come out when the baby's born to help us in the first few months of life. And they actually said right in the relocation form in their FAQ page that they will not relocate any other additional guests or people staying with you. And in our case, we feel like that's something that we're going to need.
Well, let's go to the easier question, which is the last one, which is, that's the kind of thing that if and when you decide you want to be represented, we could work with, or whoever you hire could work with them to try to get you a facility or another house or a bigger house when your family members come out to help you. So that seems like that's an easy part. Easier. I would imagine that greater minds would start being rational on that when the time comes. The part about a fetus, I would need to talk to a doctor. I don't know the answer to that, because what we do know, everything I've read about methane talks about what we as humans who are already born and living and walking around and breathing on our own, that there's nosebleeds and nausea and dizziness. The fact of the matter is many chemicals affect fetuses. I'm not gonna mislead you, they do. But I would certainly ask your pediatrician, his or her view on that. I think it's great you moved and you're not here, but I'm sure you were here for some of it. Hopefully you weren't here for too long. And again, we don't know when this started.
We were here for about a month.
A month. So I think you should monitor it carefully, but no, the fact that there's no physical symptoms now, you can't have a physical symptom on a fetus that is inside the womb. We can't observe anything, but hopefully this will never come up. Hopefully your baby will be totally healthy and that you'll never have to worry about it. I'm sure it's a lot of stress on you, I can't even imagine. And I hope that you will never have to ask us that question because you will have no health impacts. But I don't know, and I'm more than happy to ask someone but I haven't asked that question yet. You're right, I haven't, because I almost don't ever want to go there. But I would ask your pediatrician.
And actually, just if I just have one little follow-up question to that is, if there's something that could affect the baby developmentally, before he's born, if it's unknown or unclear what could happen, if there are any long-term effects, say 30, 40, 50 years from now, is there any conflict in, partaking in a lawsuit now and taking any claims now and then proving something that would occur much later?
No, statute of limitations don't apply to children until they're 18. So I don't know about 40 years, that's a long time. But for 18 years, there's no statute of limitations. So anything that were to occur between now and 18 years from now, that case doesn't mature, so to speak, until a child is 18. So you would have plenty of time to determine whether there's any issues, which again, I hope you never do, and I hope that never comes up. But you would have plenty of time. Sure, good luck.
Hi, Pete Adams, 13-year resident, husband, started my family here in Porter Ranch. I have a 6-year-old daughter, a 9-year-old son, a couple of dogs, a cat, 2 fish. I have a lot of questions, but I know you guys are in a rush. You guys are here for a lawsuit. I'm more concerned with environmental impact. We have the gas company actively trying to get us to move. They've reached out to us, they've contacted us, they're frantic with the wife, they're trying to find us a house, all this great stuff. As our attorney, this is going to be a two-part question. As our attorney, you're talking about an injunction, or should we not work directly with the gas company at this point? If we decide to sign on with your firm and they continue to actively try to locate us a place, should we now drop out of that? Should we find our own place? Should we just relocate on our own out of our own pocket?
No, because lawsuits take a while.
Okay.
And I do not want any of you to be out of pocket. You should continue to try to get relocated by the gas company. Absolutely. Where we can help is if they want to give you a one-room hotel for your children and your pets and if they give you something insufficient or inadequate, that's where we can help. But if they offer you something that's acceptable, go for it. Do not stop, do not wait. The law takes too long. And the good news is if they're willing to do it and willing to find you something adequate, so I've heard very many different stories. Some people have gotten adequate, some people have gotten inadequate. If you get something adequate, go for it. If you get something inadequate, then your lawyer can help you negotiate with the gas company and saying, you know what, that's not adequate.
Right.
So that's where I think we come in, is to help you with something adequate.
Okay.
Just to help you, I'm not going to make any promises about this, but some of the areas that we've had these types of situations here in Los Angeles County before, and this is where we can work with the councilman that was here, and hopefully with the Board of Supervisors, is property taxes are due, and you probably have pretty big property tax bills. We can go to the County Board of Supervisors, go to the county tax assessors, and put the property taxes in tax abeyance.
Less important to me right now.
No, well, and where I want to go with it, you spurred an answer to a question you probably didn't ask. And the other thing,
where I was trying to lead with my question is, I'm pretty excited. You guys have Erin Brockovich as your champion. That's a great thing. Speaks for your firm. That obviously you guys are about us. But and I was feeling good about it in line, but you mentioned you're running another 1,000-person case in Pennsylvania. That now brought up a question in my mind. How competent are you really in handling two major cases of this size? What is your track record? What have you accomplished with these mass suits in the past? And if we decide to sign up with you and use you as our lawyer, how do we know that we're getting the best deal? No offense, Erin.
No, it's fair.
Great, but just because you have Erin Brockovich here doesn't necessarily mean.
That's a fair question. It's a fair question. So checks are going out to those clients in Pennsylvania now. So the case is winding down. So the BP oil spill, we worked on that for 5 years. I mean, it was a long, arduous process, but we did get resolution.
I've worked on a lot of stuff. What's the track record? Yeah.
Well, the same. So we worked on that. We settled those cases. I mean, I don't know, there were hundreds of thousands of claimants in the BP oil spill. So we have, I mean, look, do we win 100% of our cases? No. But we have a pretty good track record at our firm. I mean, I think I would invite you all to go on our website. I mean, I think that's the best way to find out what our track record is to go to our website and see what we've done. We have a lot of our cases there. Right. So that's what I would say. So yeah, we're used to the cases. One thing I want to mention, so that because of the security and the church and needing to close down the building, we can only do another 20 minutes of questions. So if we can do them really fast, and then I can stay outside a little bit and talk longer. Sorry, just want to mention that.
Good evening, thank you for coming. Just two quick comments and then one question. One, you wanted to know about additional effects. Myself, a lot of people in my family, constant irritated eyes. Yep. And I've noticed that things I normally see clearly from about 10 or 15 feet away are a little bit more fuzzy occasionally, especially screens and things of that like. So that's been a big issue for me. Number two, another quick comment. Part of the reason why we might be having Jerry Brown problems is I've read reports that his sister's on the board of SEMRA. So that might be sort of an issue. Okay, so take that for what you will. And lastly, I have a question for you. I call myself a Google scientist. I have very rudimentary knowledge from what it seems like I've read that when the gases go into the air, over time they're going to dissipate. My question is, with that being so far underground, I'm assuming that it's filtering through the soil and whatever sediment there is over there. So if you can talk to us about what the implications of that are, because my understanding is the possible chemicals and things will retain in that soil and they won't dissipate over time. And talk about that effect, especially with El Nino and possible runoff coming pretty quick down the pipe here.
Once again, because this is an ongoing and open investigation, everything's on the table. What you just described, we're going to be talking to this gentleman out here. If there is this gas storage and there is subterranean gas pressure and it's coming up, I am less concerned about the chemicals, and I'm only answering a question here, but you're talking about an explosive situation, not so much a chronic chemical exposure situation. If that's the case, we got other problems. We will be bringing those experts in methane and soil gas migration. There are people that have done PhDs on how gas migrates through the soil. It goes up preferential pathways. It goes up the pipes that go, to the sewer line. It goes up the electrical conduits, the cable TV conduits, and it gets trapped in spaces in the garage, and the hot water heater kicks on. Boom. Okay, that's a whole different set of circumstances. I don't know that that's occurring. What this gentleman shared with the audience tonight is another piece of the puzzle. It's something we're going to be looking at.
Good evening. Simple question. The mass stored, is it supposed to take about 5 years? Any estimates how long a mass stored may take? And will it be against SoCal gas or Sempra Energy?
Well, the Southern Cal is owned by Sempra Energy. There's no way to predict how long a lawsuit can take. Some lawsuits are quick, right? So liability isn't complicated and the defendant wants closure quickly. Some lawsuits drag on forever because even if you win, they can appeal. So I have never, ever gauged how long a case will go. I would hope this would go fast. I would hope that the defendants would come in and realize that you didn't do anything wrong, you're not responsible in any way, you're just the victims, and it's fair to compensate you and let you move on with your lives. That would be my hope. But I can't promise that. Sorry.
And would it be Sempra, the defendant?
And Southern California Gas.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Hi, and thank you for your time. My husband and I are here because of my mother. My mother won't move, so my husband and I live here to be near her. One of the side effects that I haven't heard is vocal cord damage, which is what I'm experiencing. But I have a different question along the lines that this gentleman had. I'd like to know if there's something that you can actually do to not only speed up the repairs, but also I have not heard anyone talk about implementing a safety protocol so that this never happens again, or should this happen again, if you can't offload, God only knows how much gas up in those hills, that there's a way of a safety valve or something, because right now there is no safety process. If this happens tomorrow to another well, we're even more screwed. So is there something that you guys can do to help speed up the repairs and also address an outside source to do a safety prevention?
So that's a great question. So yeah, well, you want to do that? Or do you want, let me just tell you the law part, then I'm going to let Bob do the science part. So it's usually the regulators that are responsible and have the legal right to do that. And sometimes courts say that citizens don't have the right to do that. However, in cases where there's a settlement, almost always we add a component that talks about future safety measures. But as individuals, as residents, it typically is not the kind of cause of action that you can bring as an individual to say, I want this company to do things better in the future. What I always say is these kind of lawsuits are a great incentive because there are thousands of you, and it's going to cost them a fair amount of money, and do they really want to do this again? So often, involvement by a community to try to get fair compensation for what they've done in the past is a very good incentive for them not to do it again.
In a nutshell, it's our intention to be working with the regulatory agencies in Sacramento, applying some of that political pressure. It's been great that the city attorneys have gotten involved and city council's gotten involved. We need to work with the county board of supervisors, the assemblymen, the senators, and ultimately put the pressure on the governor's office and the regulators. We're going to be going to the Public Utilities Commission in San Francisco. We're going to be going to Dodger in Sacramento. That's the best we can do because, you know, as Robin said, the regulators literally are standing between us and justice.
Do you work with Sierra Club? Because they've been working against them for also down in San Diego.
We will coordinate with all the non-governmental agencies and the governmental agencies, and they can help apply that pressure. I believe they already are.
And just as since we can't, even since this is affecting me, I'd be more than happy to volunteer our house with your containers.
I've been experiencing some of the symptoms that you mentioned. Just like that lady, my throat has been dry every morning, and I've been coughing not normally for the last couple of months. For the record, and waking up with body aches. But the question I have, body aches. Like, I'm too young to be arthritis or anything. My question is, I've been here for 10 years. Is the water safe? Since we are on a well, I just found out that, you know, gas is seeping all over the place. We do have a reservoir right off the 5 freeway that some of that water is coming to us. And we're using the fridge water and the ice maker, and our dog's been throwing up, not normal for the last couple of months. And we have 3 dogs, and they've been throwing up. And we couldn't figure it out until tonight that, hey, it might be the water and not just alone the gas. Should we continue to use the water in our house from the fridge and from the ice maker that's coming from the brown?
There's a long answer to the water question, but the short answer is the water is not being impacted by the gas leak.
Okay.
That's straight up, it's not. Okay? You're going to, in this part of the distribution system, you're going to, as people start moving out, and you were starting to experience it because of water conservation and the drought anyway. Now with relocations, you're going to get what they call aged water. Aged water is going to have a lot of problems with it. And I would caution you, it's going to, if you move out of your house, you're going to drain your water heater, you know, check your ice maker, make sure those things get turned off. Because you come in, you're literally going to take a couple of weeks or a month or 2 of sludge out of your hot water heater. That's where it's going to accumulate, and you're going to send it right into your plumbing. So those are things you need to be concerned with. Today, the answer is no, your water's perfectly safe.
And another question, knowing these facts now, you know, I want my family to be safe and I want to move out. I know putting my house on the market and trying to get out of this community is probably not going to happen, especially with the news coverage and nobody's going to buy it. Is there a way out? I mean, honestly, am I stuck with my house and stuck with this problem for life, or can the gas company take my house and I'm out and I'll relocate? You know, I just want out now.
That's what probably everyone in the room feels right now, or many people in the room feel right now, and that's the kind of thing we have to individually talk about, is what do people want to do? Some people may decide, I cannot live in this house, I'm going to sell it. If I can, even though I can't afford it, I'm going to take this loss and I'm going to sue the gas company to get it back. And those are the kind of things we have to talk about individually. Everyone in the room probably has slightly different views of what they're willing to do and what risks they're willing to take.
Thank you.
Good evening. 2 questions. Question number 1. Are we still responsible for paying our gas bill, although we're just breathing? Number 2, is there any format that we might be able to annul our property tax for like a year because that evaluation of our homes?
You have a response on something? Okay.
What does it say?
Here, I'll tell you exactly what it says. Okay, one second. So I wrote gotta find it. I live in Porter Ranch and I'm currently dealing with your gas leak. I received my monthly bill and was wondering if I'm really expected to pay this or any other bill until this leak is repaired. It seems unreasonable to bill me while I am being inconvenienced and possibly incurring health risks. And they wrote, Oh no. Dear Ms. Whitman, on behalf of SoCal Gas, I thank you for your inquiry. Utility bill adjustment is not being offered at this time. Natural gas is not considered to be toxic or a hazardous air pollutant. It is colorless and odorless until we add odorant for safety. The odorant concentration levels in natural gas does not pose a health risk, but we understand every individual reacts differently to particular odors. So if someone is feeling ill, they should seek medical attention. Attached is information on temporary housing relocation we are offering to affected residents that choose to utilize. Regarding any other questions, please contact our claims department at Block. We apologize for your inconvenience as we continue our efforts to mitigate the gas leak, and we appreciate your patience. So please continue to monitor updates at our dedicated website. Sincerely, Aliso Canyon Outreach Team.
Thank you for writing that letter to them, first of all. And I'm going to give you my business card. Would you please forward that to me? I would really like to have that. That's why one size doesn't, you know how I say one size doesn't fit all? That's why.
Tell them to turn my gas off and I'll open the front door.
Did you hear that? She was going to tell them to turn her gas off and she'll just open the front door. You're great. You need to lead this. Yeah, so do you mind if you send that to me? Can I put it on our website?
Yeah, as long as you leave my name.
I'll cut your name out. Okay, absolutely. I will. So I'll cut out your name from the request and your name from the response. Okay, thank you. So we only have like 6 more minutes. So
I'll try to be quick. Thank you for coming, first of all. Obviously, my whole family has experienced all the symptoms. The thing that drew the line for me was my 10-month-old. I had 2 bloody noses, shortness of breath. When she got a fever, her whole body twitched, convulsed, every minute for 30 minutes straight. I took her to the doctor the next day. We ran blood tests. We ran all the tests. You name it. She checked it out. She doesn't have seizures. She doesn't have febrile myoclonus. She doesn't have anything. And she said she thinks it's part of the gas, but we don't know. Take her out of the situation. Next day, I said, screw you, gas company, I'm moving out. I don't need your permission. We left. She still had a fever because she had a fever. Twitches are gone. Shortness of breath is gone. She's never had it since. No bloody noses. I've documented everything. I met the executive last week, or whenever they came down from SoCal, and I yelled at them. And I pulled up Erin Brockovich, and I gave her my keys, and I said, go live in my house. Here's my keys. And they said, no, thank you. I go, what are you afraid of? This is where you say you're safe? Own it. Long story short, I guess my question to you guys is, 4 months from now, when they say the well is fixed, if we choose you guys to represent us, how do we have a third party to constantly monitor that we know, this is safe. Your water is safe. Your soil is safe. You can eat the fruits from the tree. You can breathe the air, but not just one time. I want it to be monitored every other week for years, because I honestly believe, because I looked into it and we believe that it's benzene, the chemical that created the convulsion on the baby, because that's the only chemical that does that. And that chemical is existence. I believe there is long-term effects. How do I guarantee my family and everybody else's family here, they can go back home because no one's telling us the truth?
I think it's a great... I think you raised a really great question. I just put it in my notes in our what's called a prayer for relief, which is where we ask what remedies we want. I'm going to add, thanks to you, appointment of a long-term monitor, if we'll figure it out what, to evaluate the 6 months, a year, 2 years. I think it's a great idea, and I thank you for it.
Cool. Thank you.
Hi. I'm no expert, but my son is 3-year-old and he's been coughing for the past 2-3 weeks just with me. I've been coughing too. I didn't realize it until last Friday when I heard about this. I've been reading about this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. The methane levels out in the air currently at a state of 616, not currently, sorry, back in November 23rd, when the article posted online was saying 616 parts per million in the air. Porter Ranch is known for only 2 parts per million. Now it's at 616. At 220 you start coughing. At 1200 you start feeling dizzy. At 12,800 in 3 minutes you die. If that's the case, who is monitoring this, and at what level will this be made public that this can be a real big disaster? Because 3 minutes to die, you don't know. In 3 months, I made the calculation, you'll be at, I'm doubling whatever they're saying. They're saying that we are increasing at 30 parts per million. I think we are increasing at 60 parts per million every day. Based on that, in 3 months, we'll be at 6,000. So if I'm wrong, tell me.
Pardon? To answer your question, your body will rid itself of it, so it won't accumulate. So the math won't be progressive like that. But at the same time, this is a serious situation. It's already a catastrophe. The methane levels are too high. It is causing all the health impacts that you are all experiencing. And that is what they're talking about when they're talking about pure methane. The scary part about this situation is we're not talking about pure methane. They have actually put chemicals into it, the mercaptan, for the odor so that we smell it. That in and of itself is a problem. But what are the natural elements in that cavern, that natural subterranean cavern? What are the uranium levels? What are the radium levels? What other impurities exist that are being carried with that naturally occurring, natural gas methane? And that's the question that still remains unanswered. And there, I will tell you, a lot of impurities. I'd like to stand up here. I always relate things back to water because that's me. Water, it has everything in it at various levels. So does natural gas. It's a very basic, chemical, and it literally will take all these impurities and transport them. Those are the things we need to be concerned about.
Okay. And can we monitor everything on that website? Things about how the environment is affecting and how it's improving?
Yes.
Will that be the website to go?
Yes.
We're going to make sure we put up as much information as we can in real time. And so keep it coming to us too. You'll learn things that we won't learn in real time. I mean, you might get things from the gas company or from a neighbor. But we can find what's publicly available, and we'll post things that people send to us once we get their permission that would be useful to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Last I checked, actually, Sempra was a $24 billion company, so they have plenty of money to spare for everyone. But I'm here as I'm a biochemist and a scientist, and you addressed actually part of my question, that we don't know what's in the minerals and the chemicals, and we can only measure what we know is coming from there. And they're telling us we're mercaptan and methane, but when gas comes from under the pressure, it can release radon, right, from the surface, and radon and benzene are some of the most known carcinogenic substances on this planet. If you know anything about those substances, those are the only ones for certain on a long-term chronic exposure will cause cancer. So my question to you is your firm actually hiring independent scientists? What kind of equipment and technology is being brought upon? I don't think SoCal Gas is doing it. They're not giving people permission to measure. They're allowing them to now measure radon this week, but not all other kinds of chemicals. So how do we know long-term, safety-wise, we're going to be safe? And secondly, to answer somebody's question, when there's a natural calamity like an earthquake, they have an emergency shut-off valve. So they can actually use that right now to shut off the gas. They can't plug the leak, but they can shut off all the other wells and the pipelines. I know it's not feasible as an energy supply, but in the case of a calamity, they have to do that.
So I can answer one part and then I'll let Bob or Camille answer the other. So for purposes of measuring what's actually in the air, Erin mentioned it, we have Summa canisters. Believe it or not, there's a shortage of Summa canisters. It's a canister that does an 8-hour reading, and we have Camille and someone Camille works with have identified certain parts of the community where we want to take measurements, and those will be real-time measurements, and it will actually calculate what's in the air that you're breathing, and that will give us a sense of what's in there, like benzene and other things. I don't know what you want to add to that.
Yeah, that's going to start to tell us what's in it, but unfortunately, it's going to take more science than that. There are PhDs that have spent their entire professional careers studying the migration of methane gases. There's a National Academy of Sciences panel arguing about it right now. You know, can it explode with pressure or without pressure, and at what levels, and what are the impurities? Those guys are way above my pay grade, and they will be involved in this, and they will be analyzing this. And just because the sample says this is what was in the gas for an 8-hour period of time on Tuesday, doesn't mean it's the be-all, end-all answer. You're going to have to test it at different times. Somebody was shouting real-time, on-time, accurate monitoring. We're going to start demanding a lot of that. It's technologically available now. They know it, and they're going to deploy it.
That was my question. Are you going to engage with that? And then your answer is yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. My question was kind of the last couple of people were kind of answering to some degree, but I was wondering, when you fall sick due to something like this for weeks at a time, and then it continues and you stay in that, how can you measure how that, how can you possibly measure how that would affect you in the future, and would that be taken into account when you go about your claims?
Do you mean how will you know once this situation is resolved what's going to happen in the future?
Well, basically, just to make it a little clearer, like I actually came here tonight because this happened to me 2 years ago. I live in another part of LA, and I live right about, I was staying in this apartment for a couple of years with constant exposure. We had one major incident, exactly 2 years ago, where I fell sick for 3 weeks, and I had all of these symptoms that everybody has mentioned tonight, except for the nosebleed. But and since then, I've been just working on my own health to bounce. It was only 3 weeks where I was really sick, but after that, I had symptoms ever since that I never had ever in my life before. I was always really strong, and up until this day, I feel sensations in my heart area, chest area, and none of that was able to be proven. Some things were, but not like to the degree what I've experienced.
The easiest way to answer your question is no two people in this room are going to experience it the same way. I can go into a room, I can be exposed, I can walk out, 15 minutes later I get my breath back and everything's fine. I take Erin in a room, she's going to come out and she's going to give me grief for the next 90 days. It's just no two people are the same.
So, in deference to the church and the LAPD, I think we have to shut it down.
I'm going to ask you this question, please. I'll read it. Please, it's economic impact of the community. May I?
Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to honor what people ask, but we can also go outside and talk, but...
I have a quick question, which is, I understand that if they do declare that it's a state of emergency, which I've heard a rumor, does that release SoCal Gas from their liability?
No. Absolutely not. Those are different, those are two separate situations, but thank you for asking.
I waited for everybody to ask the question. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. But I want to ask you this question specifically regarding economics fact that has happened to this community and the people that they're moving to this community. I'm a father, I'm a business owner. I have a client that is selling their property to move to Porter Ranch. Yet at the same time, she was closing the Porter Ranch at the same time as she was closing the other property. Because of this news, escrow has fallen off. Question to you, what are you doing for a client like my client, who, effective on the 18th of this month, will be homeless and has the entire house sitting on a trailer, and including a number of the other people that I know. Can you help them out?
We got a call the other day. I don't know if Chris is in the room, but we got a call with almost the same exact situation the other day, and we told her we were going to try to help her with Southern Cal because she has this like 3-week window where she has nowhere to live. I know it's a little different, but I mean, that's exactly what Bob's saying. It's what we've been saying all night. Every single person is going to have a different situation. Every single person is going to have a different loss and a different problem. Okay.
Very much.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So, one very short question. So, relocation company, I've been working with them, and they have offered a place to go. So I'm about to sign a lease with the relocation company. That doesn't waive my rights, right?
No, it doesn't. But is it a short-term lease, or is it month to month, or?
It's 2 months at a time.
Okay. But Southern Cal's paying for that, right?
They're paying for it, but I still have to sign the lease with the relocation.
That's not the kind of document I'm talking about. That's fine.
Right. Okay. And
now read the fine print, though. If you're being relocated and you're signing a lease, please read the fine print.
Yeah. On their website today, they have posted something new because what they said is, in addition, the company has redoubled its efforts to slow the leak. Did you guys read that? And they have reduced the orders while the relief well product is underway. What are they doing?
I heard that they were reducing the mercaptan, but I don't know if that's true. That's what I've heard, that one of the reasons the odor's lower now is they've put in less mercaptan.
Okay. One last announcement, if you could make it. Yes. Everybody, please park your car inside your garage. Everybody in this community, it's eating into the paint, to the finish.
Oh.
There's micro dots all over. One of the PRNC members would have played out at night, and it was covered in the morning, and it's eating into the paint. I have 3 cars that are damaged, and everybody else in our community.
Oh, well, that's another. See, I didn't know about that damage. Did you all hear that? Your cars are being damaged if you leave them outside.
Yes.
So thank you. So yeah, these are all these secondary damages that I didn't know about. So anyone else who has other ideas, maybe we can try to find some interactive posting we can do.
If you send them to us, we'll post it. We'll work with Erin on her Facebook. We will get it on the webpage. You send it to us, it's a two-way street.
Right. Erin has a Facebook page
It's the new
too.
age of communication. We're getting used to it too. But send it to us and we'll answer them and get them back.
Hi. I just bought my home 3 months ago. Yeah, go me. I'm reviewing my natural hazard disposer from Los Angeles County, and it says leaking underground storage tanks is not within 1/4 mile of no leaking underground storage tanks. So, can I sue the city of Los Angeles as well?
Yeah, good question.
Absolutely. This was provided by my realtor, and it's just...
Yeah, definitely send it to us. We'd like to look at that. Okay, thank you. All right, so can we go outside and we'll... Okay, as long as no one yells at me, I'm not going anywhere.
Bob, real quickly, you were very certain about this not impacting the water. What recent study are you basing that on?
The water for the city of Los Angeles is coming from Castaic Lake.
No, but I mean what study?
No study. No study.
So it's an opinion.
Yeah, it's an opinion based on the gas leak situation. There are water quality problems in Los Angeles, and I'd be glad to answer those outside.
But they shot my light.
No, I didn't.
Anyway, everybody, we're going to be meeting 10 a.m. on Saturday morning.
I'll repeat it. Go ahead.
We're going to be meeting at 10 a.m.
Who's we?
Saturday, the community.
Okay.
On Saturday morning at 10 a.m. at the corner of Cessna and Tampa. And wear red shirts. We're drawing a red line. Because enough is enough. Thank you.
Great. And I will be happy to talk water with you outside.
I'm going to talk vodka.
Not opinion. We get a lot of opinion. We get a lot of opinion.
I wanted to ask about chances of fire. Also, I wanted to say that this is affecting current fire.
Well, they put me up in Hawaii, like in Maui. You can go wherever you want. I'm thinking Maui's far enough.